A shocker. Well, sort of. On Monday Night Raw tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we have a brand new World Heavyweight Champion, and it is indeed Gunther. Gunther wins the main event tonight. This match was set up several weeks ago. We knew Gunther would be facing the World Heavyweight Champion, whoever that may be, on June 9th, the first Raw after Money in the Bank. And many of us, all week long, the last probably 2 or 3 podcasts that we've had where we've discussed this match, we've all kind of had the same idea. We're hearing the rumors of Goldberg having a retirement match this summer. And now we've got it narrowed down even more, where we've recently heard that it's likely set for the Saturday night's main event on All In Weekend in Georgia. They've already previously set up stuff on TV with Gunther months ago. So it felt like whenever we did get that final match of Goldberg, it would be against Gunther. So a lot of us were expecting Goldberg to interfere tonight or play a role in the finish that would lead to that Gunther and Goldberg match. But I had put on social media right in the middle of the match, I'm like, for even with what they've previously set up with Gunther and Goldberg, it would be weird if he just randomly showed up here, unprovoked in the middle of a championship match. Like if his music hit in the middle of the match and he just came out and he distracted Gunther and then Jey got the pin on him, that would be an incredibly lazy way to bring him in and book his retirement match. So the fact that we got a straight up match here with no interference, and it started becoming clear to me at the end of the match, near the end of the match in the main event tonight, when Gunther had Jey in that sleeper in the choke right in the middle of the ring. And I'm like, how is he going to get out of this? It doesn't look like this is escapable. As I always have to deal with Tito right in the beginning of my podcast, every time. Anyway, I was wondering, I'm like, how is he going to get out of this? It doesn't seem like he's going to be able to. And then he kind of escaped it. Gunther locked it back on. He escaped it again. And I'm like, okay, I guess they're just going to have Jey fight out of this. But then eventually Gunther locked it on for a final time. He's right there in the middle. Jey is fading. And I'm like, I don't know what kind of super Cena or superhero Hogan shit they could do here with Jey to make him get out of this. But it does not look like he's going to escape this sleeper. And he did not. And he went out. Referee called for the bell. And Gunther is the new World Heavyweight Champion. So many questions leap to mind. Number one, why the hell did they even put the belt on Jey to begin with? I mean, I'm glad he got the run. I'm glad main event Jey finally became a world champion. But, that was pretty short-lived, and especially to drop it right back to the person he beat at WrestleMania, you don't see that very often. Trying to think through history, I'm sure it's probably happened. But who has lost the championship at WrestleMania only to win it back from that same person a couple of months later? Have they ever done that? It's pretty surprising. So the only thing I can think of is that perhaps Gunther won the championship here because the match he's going to do with Goldberg is going to be a title versus career. Maybe they feel like I don't want to see Goldberg at all, but if they're going to bring him back in, like obviously they are, to have that retirement match, maybe they feel that Goldberg should be in a match that's just a little bit bigger than a grudge match. Like he should go after the championship. I want to do what John Cena's doing. I want to retire as a champion. And so he's going to face Gunther, and if he wins, he retires as champion. And if he doesn't, he retires anyway. Or they could do title versus career and not bill it as Goldberg's retirement match, but bill it as Goldberg's possible retirement match. And we just got to suppress those memories of the match with The Fiend, in Saudi Arabia, and the couple of times that Goldberg won that title that was just unbelievably frustrating. And maybe that's what they want. They want it to be a championship match for Goldberg. And when he loses, that will be it. He will be going down swinging. He will be going down fighting for one of the business's top prizes. That's the only reason I can think of that they would put the title back on back on Gunther tonight. Because Rollins is the one carrying around the briefcase. And Rollins is the scummy, shitty heel that he is, cashing in on Jey Uso, seemed like it was more likely. But cashing in on Gunther could be a good way to turn Gunther babyface. I mean, Gunther has already kind of been coming around. He even showed Pat McAfee that little bit of respect after that match. And he owned up to his defeat, I think, even after WrestleMania with Jey and stuff. So, Gunther's pretty much respected by the audience. He's not a chicken shit, down and dirty, scummy heel, maybe the way a Rollins is or some other heels are. So, this might be a way for him to finish off Goldberg and then turn babyface in the process. Maybe on Saturday night's main event, Seth Rollins shows up and cashes in on Gunther. We don't know. But Gunther is the new World Heavyweight Champion regardless, and that's pretty shocking. I mean, it shouldn't be that shocking that he could beat Jey Uso. I think it's just a lot of us were expecting something else to happen here, and Jey to survive this challenge from Gunther in some way. And like I said, a lot of us kind of had Goldberg on the radar there, and it was not to be. So anyway, lots to discuss tonight on the show here. We're going to review Monday Night Raw. We're going to talk about everything. We had some returns tonight, and we had some big, and I mean big, Saudi Arabia matches announced. I think it's kind of funny that WWE didn't do CM Punk and John Cena at Money in the Bank in favor of a tag, and now they're going to do John Cena and CM Punk only somewhere else. Pretty wild, pretty crazy. You got to think that was done on purpose, but we got a big match. John Cena and CM Punk is official for Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia. That was set up tonight, and then later on, Adam Pearce made it official on social media. And the King of the Ring tournament kicked off as well with a couple of big four-way matches for the men and the women. And we've got a couple of big ones announced for next week as well that does include one major return. And I'm happy to see this person back. So we're pretty much just going to review Raw tonight. We're also going to follow up and talk a little bit more about the return of R-Truth and some of the details that we've learned about that over the past day or so. And anything else you guys want to get into in the chat, we'll be discussing that tonight. So thank you so much for being here. Welcome to your WWE Raw review for June 9th, 2025. I'm going to say hello to everybody in the chat. While I'm doing that, please do me a favor. Smash that thumbs up button if you don't mind. Subscriptions, super chats, and memberships, all open and available for your clicking pleasure down there in the description and whatnot. Let me just do a couple of quick hellos here, and then we're going to start jumping into stuff. And we have a lot to kind of talk about because I think later on as we talk more about Gunther's win tonight, and we talk more about Cena, and what he's doing, and Goldberg, and SummerSlam coming up. Plus, the King and Queen of the Ring tournaments are kicking off, and I think, based on what we saw tonight, I feel like we can sniff out one winner already. It feels like the person that won tonight might win the whole damn thing. I have a feeling. So we'll talk about the possible scenarios of King and Queen of the Ring and how that will affect the championship matches that we see at SummerSlam, and then how that will affect the other title belts that don't get challenged for by the King and Queen winners. So a lot to kind of unpack here. Good to see Doug Unfunny, Zane G, Ajax Johnson, Crazy J, Brian Nino, Stone Cold 10X. We have Rodrigo, Nick Musser, Intimidator. What's up? Zach Powgett, George Morris with the token 5. Hey, Greg, how are you doing? How is Tito and Elizabeth? Why is Glenn Jacobs a piece of shit? Please tell me, what did I miss? He always seemed like a nice guy. We'll get into Glenn Jacobs later, but I think you can do a couple of simple searches, George, and figure it out. I think Glenn Jacobs is objectively worse than Hulk Hogan by a lot, and that's saying a lot. Ken Webb, also good to see you. DJG, Daniel Berry Sports. Colin Wright is here. We have Ryan Adams dropping in $10 for us. I can see it now. Sammy wins the tourney, beats Gunther at SummerSlam. Seth cashes in to take the moment away. Sammy gets it back at Mania like Daniel Bryan did. Man, that's a lot. That is a lot. So that's going to be Sammy and Gunther again, this time for the World Championship as opposed to the IC that was at WrestleMania 40. And then having Sami get the moment. I have heard a lot of people talk about Sami Zayn next year at WrestleMania. So maybe all of this is a way to kind of do that, especially if he wins the championship and then immediately loses it. And then goes on to win a bigger belt at Mania. Who knows? David Brown, good to see you. Stephen Harris is here. Kevin Beck, we've got in the house. Also, Blunt Object, Roger Dat. Good to see Max Pokebra. And Daniel Mendiola, what up, man? And 7th season. Anybody else chiming in? Good to see you. Thank you so much for being here this evening. And yeah, we have lots to discuss as it relates to Monday Night Raw tonight. Let's talk about it. Let's get into it. I think we should get into it right away. We'll circle back and talk about some news. We have some R-Truth stuff to get into, and we will talk about that when we get into the R-Truth portion of the show tonight, because he did make an appearance on Raw tonight. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But the show opened up with John Cena. John Cena was advertised for the show, so we were wondering what he was going to come out and say. I thought we would perhaps see Cody as well, but I feel like Cody and Cena, excuse me, has got to be your SummerSlam match, right? You know, especially if we see Sami Zayn winning the King of the Ring, then he's already set to face the World Heavyweight Champion at SummerSlam. So you can book Cody and Cena, and since you didn't do it at Money in the Bank and you haven't done it at Night of Champions, you got to do it at SummerSlam, you would think, because I'm not expecting CM Punk to beat John Cena in Saudi Arabia. But John Cena opens up the show, came out and shit on the fans like he always does, and then he is interrupted by CM Punk, and that was really awesome to hear that music hit and to see these guys in the ring again. But the very first thing I thought of was that you had the match right there, Money in the Bank, where the two men have so much history. Why didn't you just do the match there? And I think it's just Triple H messing with Punk a little bit. I think they're like, we're going to give you a match with Cena, but it ain't going to be here. It's going to be in Saudi Arabia. So Punk comes out, and the first thing he says is he's not here to defend TKO. He's not here to defend the billionaires, and then in the same segment agrees to work a match basically in Saudi Arabia. So Punk wants to face Cena. He wants to take the belt from Cena, and he wants to do it right here tonight on Monday Night Raw. And in typical heel fashion, whenever a babyface suggests a match like that, the heel usually says, "I would love to kick your ass for this belt, but not tonight," which is exactly what Cena did. Extremely predictable. But in a way, I do like this. I do like what they did. And Cena says, if you want this, you got to come to Saudi. That's effectively what he said. And that was a really, I thought, good way of addressing this, because we've all known that CM Punk is going to eventually work a show in Saudi Arabia. He's going to have to. And they're going to have to address what we already know about his feelings of Saudi Arabia. It goes all the way back to that tweet that he sent The Miz telling him to go suck a blood money covered dick in Saudi Arabia. And so we have had other wrestlers take a stance against going there. Kevin Owens did for a bit while Sami Zayn, wasn't going. CM Punk, and there may be some others. And we had our issues with it at, first 5 years ago when all of this started, and they had the death of that American journalist, and so much sketchiness, and just the human rights issues and stuff over there. So there's just a lot of feelings in general about this deal. But a lot of years have gone by now, and WWE and a lot of other sports outfits are going over there on a regular basis. It's all just part of business. Even if it's ugly, it's part of business. So even Sami Zayn, showing up there and cutting his promos in Arabic, which I fully expect him to do after he wins the King of the Ring this year, again in Saudi. So eventually, it felt like this was going to be unavoidable for CM Punk, especially since you have the Royal Rumble coming up there next year. And unless Punk is injured, how would he not be in the Royal Rumble? So Punk is going to have to go to Saudi. Now, he's tried to walk back some stuff. He was asked that question on his Instagram Live when he was doing his workouts about Saudi Arabia. I've never been to Saudi Arabia. How can I hate it? But we all know, what he felt at the time. And that's going to have to be dealt with somehow, but you also don't want to harp on it. You don't want to make it a big part of the storyline, where you talk about how much CM Punk hates the idea of going to Saudi Arabia. You don't want to do that. You don't want to draw attention to it. But at the same time, all of the fans are aware of this. So it needs to be addressed. And you need to have a kayfabe reason for Punk to be okay with going to Saudi in real life. See what I mean? They're trying that's what they're trying to do. And I actually appreciated that, because I think with John Cena, that's that makes it all very easy. This essentially or effectively squashes it. That's the carrot that he's dangling. You want this, the biggest prize in the business, you got to fly to the desert and try to take it from me. And Punk is willing to do that then. You're still going to have fans that are going to call him a hypocrite, and I'm sure he feels like he might be one, but unfortunately he's working for WWE now, and this is what he has to do. When he made that blood money covered dick tweet, I don't think he was ever expecting to be back in WWE. but tweets are forever. You know, when you put something on the internet, it is there forever. It's different than just saying it. You know, if Punk would have just said that to The Miz in person, then nobody would ever make anything of this. You know, but it's there as a permanent record of him saying these things. So now that he works for WWE, he probably knew that going in. Shit, I'm going to have to one day address the Saudi stuff. I'm going to have to work Saudi, and I'm going to look like a hypocrite because of what I've tweeted before. But unfortunately, that's what you have to do if you want a $10 million contract. So making it for the title, I think, acknowledges it just enough to where you're acknowledging it. Punk knows, you know, fans know he hasn't been to Saudi before, and Cena says, if you want this, you're going to have to come there. Punk's going to say, okay, and then it's done. You know, maybe Cena can bring it up in a couple of promos here or there if he wants to get some heat or some oohs and ahs from the crowd. But in terms of addressing it, I feel like that's over now. We're done. We don't have to worry about how they're going to figure out CM Punk in Saudi Arabia anymore. It will be interesting to see if the response he gets from the audience over there is any different. I don't think it would be. I don't think CM Punk has any problem with the Saudi Arabian wrestling fans over there, specifically and especially the kids. You know, it's mostly just the government and the royal family and their sketchy ways and just the culture over there. In general, you know, he has a problem with, I would think, more than just the little kids who want to watch wrestling. So I think that, you know, his response will probably be somewhat normal. But, you know, in a lot of ways, I mean, he did look a little foolish tonight saying, I'm not standing up for the billionaires while, you know, going to Saudi Arabia at the same time. But what did you want them to do? This had to be addressed somehow. Punk can't suck the words back into his mouth or suck the tweet off the internet. It can't be done. It's been said. So the best you can do now is try to rectify it, walk it back, you know, clean up, if you will, and course correct to get yourself to Saudi. And now that the match is for the championship, I feel like that's done. And the funny thing is, though, during the segment, the match wasn't made. It was so bizarre when Cena laid it all out for Punk. You want this? You got to come to Saudi. Seth Rollins music hit. And he comes out to the stage there wearing all green. He's got his briefcase. He's got his boys with him. I'm like, oh, this will be interesting. I'm expecting them to come to the ring. So as Seth's music is playing and the fans are singing, they all of a sudden cut to the announce table and they start running through the card of what we're going to see tonight. And then I think we go to a break. I couldn't tell on Netflix, but I think we go to a break and we come back and it's AJ Styles versus Chad Gable. I was expecting Rollins to come out to the ring and then nothing happened. I thought that would have been interesting for Rollins to come there and dangle that briefcase in front of the two of them. Yeah, have your match in Saudi, guys. I'm going to be sitting out there just waiting. You better hope neither one of you get hurt, because if you do, that belt's coming with me. And just tease him and just fucking laugh and all that. But he didn't even come to the damn ring. So I'm like, what the hell? And, you know, as it relates to Rollins winning the Money in the Bank, like we talked about in the Money in the Bank review, and as I've been thinking about, you know, I thought it was going to be kind of boring if Rollins were to just cash in the briefcase and beat Jey Uso and win the World Heavyweight title. You know, like if he was going to do that, he didn't need the briefcase for that. He could have just gotten the title match at SummerSlam or had Paul Heyman get him a title match, or he could have gotten the title match some other way. A main event victory at WrestleMania. He's got title matches. He has enough on his resume to where he could pretty much be given a title shot at any time. So if he was just going to win the World Heavyweight title, I feel like you're wasting the briefcase. You should give the briefcase to L.A. Knight and then just have Seth win the title if that's the case. But now that Gunther's won it, and I did kind of brainstorm on the podcast on Saturday night or on the Money in the Bank review that could he maybe be going after the second championship or the other championship? I wouldn't hate that. If it was Cody and Cena for the title, you know, Ryan laid out the scenario of Gunther and Sami at SummerSlam, Sami winning the title and then Rollins cashing in on Sami. I would prefer it be the other way, to be honest. I would prefer it be Cody and Cena. Cody cashes in and then Cody wins and then Rollins cashes in on Cody. We still got to get that Cody and Rollins match, like for real, where Rollins beats him, you know? So maybe it's that, could go the other way, but I feel like the fact that Rollins didn't come in and cash in tonight, I feel like that means he's not going to cash in until SummerSlam. Not at Night of Champions. He'll probably be out there dangling it, but I don't think he'll cash it in. I think SummerSlam will be where it happens. So maybe he's set to cash in on the other title. Maybe he's set to go to SmackDown. Maybe they're moving some titles around. I don't even know. But I feel like if he just winds up winning the World Heavyweight title, I feel like the briefcase was, for the men anyway, was kind of wasted, and it wasn't really necessary in order for Rollins to attain that championship. With the backup that he has and Paul Heyman by his side, why would you need the green thing to win the title? You should be able to do that. You should be able to do that. But we'll see. We will see. So Rollins wound up coming out, but nothing happened. We got no interaction in the ring, and that was kind of a bummer. First match of the night was, like I said, AJ Styles taking on Chad Gable. This was a fun match. Gable has been very, very busy. Dude is a workhorse, and I even think he's got a banged-up arm that he suffered on Saturday. Styles clashed for the win here, and AJ got the victory. So a lot of losses piling up there for El Gable Americano. Then we have our first of two Fatal 4-Way King of the Ring matches. I thought that was right. I almost second-guessed myself. I thought when I saw the graphics for the King and Queen of the Ring, I'm like, are they doing 4-ways to advance to the semis? And I said that on the review, and then I thought maybe I was wrong, but then no, I'm not wrong. They're actually doing 4-ways. So they're going to do 4 4-way matches, all advancing to the semifinals, and that'll make your final 4. And then you'll have the finals actually at King of the Ring, with the winner of King and Queen of the Ring getting title shots against their brands' respective champions at SummerSlam. So it is Roxanne Perez, Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley, and Kairi Sane in this one. Roxanne Perez got the win here. Kind of surprising. I wasn't paying too much attention to this match because I was hungry and I was downstairs making a snack. So I kind of didn't catch really any of the match except for the finish. I did see that Roxanne did save Liv Morgan from a pin attempt, I think from Kairi Sane at some point in this match. And I'm also happy that we didn't have Rhea Ripley winning. So all of those crazy stands, they're all kids. They're just kids. They're the stands for the other women, or the people that are starting to worry that Ripley is politicking to the level of Hulk Hogan. Just that sentence almost makes me dumber just saying it. Where are they at right now? Ripley didn't win Money in the Bank. She didn't win here. And again, I don't think Ripley needs to really be in the Queen of the Ring tournament, because she's Rhea Ripley. She probably is going to get a title shot against Io Sky either at Evolution or at SummerSlam, one or the other. So again, a briefcase or a tournament victory is not needed for Rhea Ripley. So I'm glad that it was Roxanne getting the win here. She advances, and Liv Morgan was none too pleased about that. Then it's time for a Becky Lynch promo. Now, I checked the time as she was making her way to the ring, and it wasn't quite a top-of-the-hour segment, but it was close enough to where I was feeling pretty good about my prediction that I've been talking about for several weeks now. I believed we would either see Bayley at Money in the Bank or the Monday after Money in the Bank. And Becky is out there. She's cutting her promo, and I'm just like watching her talk. I'm like, this is it. This is it. So out comes Lyra first, because Becky's in the ring screaming that she wants an apology from Lyra because Becky was really rubbing it in at Money in the Bank. I think the stip was that Lyra had to raise her hand, right? But Becky wanted her hand raised in all 4 corners. She wanted her to put the belt on her and lick her ass and all this stuff. And then Lyra just decided to beat her up after the match. So now Becky is demanding an apology. Lyra comes out, but then in from behind comes a returning Bayley attacking Becky Lynch. Becky scurries out of the ring, but she runs right into Lyra. Lyra throws her back in the ring. Bayley starts beating her down some more, goes for the rose plant. Becky escapes, scurries away, and gets the hell out of Dodge. And Barry, how are you holding up? Because, look, I'm not going to sit here and say that I was unaware of Bayley's game, because I wasn't. But damn. Barry, you doing all right in there? Hyperventilating? Paper bag, bro. It's what you need. All y'all. Bayley was back, and she was impressive. All in white. Hubba hubba, as the kids used to say. So Bayley is back. I did predict a few days ago that I think the Evolution match will be Bayley versus Becky for the IC title, or Bayley versus Becky versus Lyra in a triple threat. Based on what we saw tonight, I'm leaning towards that triple threat as probably being your Evolution match there. And then right after that happens, A returning R-Truth shows up in his black hoodie, stands on the announce desk, huge ovation from the crowd, and we knew we would probably see or hear from him tonight. And when we did hear from him or see him for the first time after his debut, or I'm sorry, his return on Saturday, we were curious, like, what his demeanor was going to be. Was he going to be able to fall right back into that goofy R-Truth type of character? And based on a lot of the details we were reading over the past couple of days, it does sound like he's going to be coming back as Ron Killings. That was what was reported, and then he confirmed it in his promo here. And he says, first thing he does when he stands on the table, he says, "Don't let anyone tell you you don't matter." He said, "They heard you, they listened to you, and they understood." He says, "I'm back because of y'all. I'm back because of all of the fans." And he said, "But I'm also back for me too." And he says, sometimes R-Truth can be a little bit too funny, a little bit too nice, a little bit too forgiving. And he says, but not me. He says, I feel differently. And then he pulls out a pair of scissors, not golden scissors, just regular ass store-bought scissors. And I'm like, what's he going to do? Cole and McAfee scramble. They see the scissors like, oh shit. And then Truth grabs his braid on top of his head and he just cuts off the braid. And he declares that he is now Ron Killings. Ron the Truth Killings has arrived. And I think that's awesome. I think that's awesome. Now, right before he came out, Triple H posted a picture. I don't know if it was backstage at Raw or backstage at Money in the Bank of him doing the pointing thing to R-Truth. You can see the truth written all over Triple H's face. He is not happy about it. You know, he kind of got, I don't want to say outvoted, but from what we understood, you know, it was kind of his call to make the R-Truth cut. And then Nick Khan had to step in and get some of these negotiations to get R-Truth back. Triple H absolutely refused to eat crow at the Money in the Bank presser and effectively tried to bury wrestling media in the process, while everybody called him out for being full of shit, including Ron Killings and Ron Killings' son. I thought it was just really, kind of a disingenuous way to do that. And I worry that the promo tonight from Truth was really good, but I'm like, if Triple H is booking things, you know, what's stopping Triple H from just doing absolutely nothing with him? You know, the fans really seem to be liking this. They like the promo. They like the hair snip. They like that he's going to be called Ron Killings. They wanted to see him back, and the fans were able to get that done. And I don't think Triple H likes his creative to be undermined. I've said forever, he doesn't like us. He does not like the fans. We see that. We saw that WrestleMania week. We see that in his interviews. We see that in the way he speaks about us. And you definitely saw it in the presser when he was asked straightforward about the return of Ron Truth or of Ron Killings. And he goes, it's all part of the show. Kind of like wink, wink, implying that it's a work. Lord knows there's enough of that dumb shit flying around. You know, like, come on, Triple H. How hard would it have been for him to just sit there and say, we heard you, in his Triple H voice? I would have appreciated that. That would have made me feel good as a fan that we have a wrestling booker that hears what the fans are saying and acts accordingly and books accordingly. You know, but instead, it's all part of the show. No, Triple H, it's not all part of the show. You are so unbelievably, transparently, breathtakingly full of shit when you say that it's almost offensive. It is not all part of the show. We know exactly what happened. Truth was informed that his contract would not be renewed. You lowballed him an offer. He said no. He knew his worth. The fans, the wrestlers in the locker room, all rose and rallied to support him to the point where the company experienced so much backlash that they had to have the other guy in charge, Nick Khan, directly reach out to Ron Killings himself to get a deal done to bring him back in. And Triple H doesn't like it. He's doing it, but he doesn't like it. And you could see that in the picture. You could see that on Saturday. And my only fear is that Triple H, out of spite, won't make anything good out of this Ron Killings run. Because I was also thinking, well, how ironic and crazy would it be, if After all these years, all the different, eras and companies that R-Truth has wrestled in, spending the last 17 years in WWE, doing nothing too much of a significance, couple of tag title runs here or there, that one little heel run he had with The Miz when they faced Rock and Cena years ago, but really Truth has just been a solid, entertaining component of the show for years. But that's really all. He's never really been in top storylines or anything like that. How crazy would it be if the most successful run he has is this one? That's going to be up to Triple H, to swallow his pride there and just fucking do it. But wouldn't that be crazy? When it was all done, when his career was all but over, when the fans rallied for him and showed so much support, they brought him back and it winds up giving him the best run he's ever had in his career. That would be crazy. Now he's 53 years old. I don't know what he can really do, that would be, super significant, but shit, I feel like he's already had a Hall of Fame career. And if he were to tack on one, extra out of nowhere run that we didn't see coming that turned out to be the most successful run he's ever had, that would just be some crazy irony right there. And just shows you that anything can happen in the WWF. But good to see him back. It sounds like he's going to have a little bit more serious of a character. I don't know if this necessarily means he's going to turn heel. I just think it means that he's not going to be goofy. He's not going to show up in the Rumble thinking it's a ladder match anymore. That was all fun, but how long can you actually do that type of stuff? So we will see what winds up happening there with R-Truth going forward. We did have some more details coming out about his return. And like we talked, we should just briefly address this, but like we talked about in the review on Saturday, when it comes to this R-Truth being released was a work. Now, I feel silly for even giving this any time. We didn't even have to, we just went straight from our watch along into the review on Saturday. Just by watching what happened, you can tell the very bottom of the barrel, the barrel is here and there's a layer of scum, that bottom of the barrel level of common sense is all you need to see that this was absolutely not a fucking work. And the problem is, especially on social media and some pockets of YouTube as well, this whole thing is a lot like the 2020 election was stolen. There's a huge overlap there between those type of people. And I think on this case, on this side of it, on the wrestling side of it, on the R-Truth being released was a work side of it, that is being fueled by one thing and one thing only. There is a contingent out there with a very, very deep, and I mean deep, rooted obsession and desire for wrestling journalists and wrestling media to be wrong. They want them to be wrong. And so for the people that were saying, you got worked, they have no basis for this. They're just saying it. That's what the people in the red hats in this country do. They say things. It doesn't mean anything. It's completely demonstrably fucking false, but they say it anyway, and the dumbest of the dumb believe it and then peddle it and give it traction. Nobody with any sort of normal sense believed this was a work for a second. And you can just look right on the surface there to determine that. They released Carlito and Sarah Logan. Why weren't those works? That is not the typical type of storyline WWE is going to run. They're going to release 3 people, but then one of them is going to be fake. How obsessed do you have to be with hating wrestling media that you're allowing yourself to believe that? It's insane. It's the driving force behind all of that. People hate Sean Ross Sapp. They hate Meltzer. They hate anybody else. Wrestling media is a joke and blah, blah, blah. And they want so badly for them to be wrong. And I said this on Saturday. I said fans cannot separate what they want from what reality is. And for the people who are screaming, it's a work, the reason that they are screaming that is because that's what they want it to be. But it isn't. And they know it isn't, so then they just repeat it over and over anyway. They can't be that stupid. I think a lot of it is them, they're just treading into, they're just being trolls. I was going back and forth with some dipshit tonight on Twitter because there's some fake quote, easily disproven quote from David Zaslav or whatever that says Dynamite does 80,000 views a week or something like that. It's completely fake. It was debunked instantly. A 4-year-old could determine it's fake But yet all of those accounts are retweeting it. The sickos are coping and seething. I'm like, no, we're not. You're the dumbass. You're the fucking dumbass. What are you talking about? Who's coping and seething here? You are actively believing nonsense that is easily proven to be untrue. Extremely easily. Takes very minimal effort. A couple of clicks, just the very basic level of reading comprehension. If you can count to 10 and you know your ABCs, you should be able to understand this. Not them. They're running with it because they want so badly for that to be true that they just tell themselves that it's true. I only took 3 semesters of psychology in college. That's all I needed to be able to see right through these little pieces of shit. And they're everywhere. You got worked. We got Fightful Select unveiling this detailed, report of the R-Truth release and who they've talked to. Nope, nobody talks to you. It's bullshit. You got worked. I'm like, how, what the fuck? That's the level of, it's because they're children for one, but that's the level of childness that's out there. They just behave like infants, like children, like little bitches on the playground. It's crazy. Repeating and peddling knowingly, provably, easily provably untrue bullshit all day. You saw that with the R-Truth stuff as a work, and you saw it with the 80,000 views on AEW. These people are obsessed. They're friendless. They're weird. They have nothing whatsoever going for them other than being trolls. But it took several different days to try to convince people that the R-Truth thing was not a work, and what Triple H said was really shitty, because he, in one sentence there tried to bury wrestling media. All of their reports were accurate. Everything that they reported was on the R-Truth situation was accurate. It turned out to be accurate. And so you have that big portion of the audience that really just has something against wrestling media. They find things to hate and they obsess about them. I argued with some dipshit today. He's got 70 subscribers on his podcast. It looks like he's broadcasting from an iPhone 3 in 360p. And you look at his page and he's got a bunch of AI generated thumbnails of Tony Khan in a clown mask and stuff. I'm like, this is what's out there. This is what's out there. These are how simple and predictable and pathetic boys can be. They just become obsessed. They have to hate something. And they decide that they hate somebody, and it does not matter. What they say or do that is correct, they are going to blindly, tunnel vision, believe what they want to believe. And that's never been more apparent than it was over the past couple of days watching people who are still, when Ron Killings himself and Ron Killings' son, and dozens upon dozens of backstage talent all have said, this is not a fucking work. Nope, it was a work. They are 100% convinced that WWE would work its own locker room. For what? What was the point? This is R-Truth we're talking about. And like we said, you can just, it's so easy to see this. It would be one thing if they did a segment like they did with Bronson Reed, where he smashed Ricochet through the glass window, and then you read on WWE.com the next day that Bronson Reed has been released. Maybe that's a work, because they let him go for assaulting someone in the parking garage and slamming him through a windshield or something. Then, maybe you could say, well, maybe that's a work. But it was so obvious from the very first minute that it was not a work. And then when Truth returns in the ring and takes off his hood, that's what it took to convince fans that it was a work? No. This was a situation like Matt Hardy or like Daniel Bryan or like Drake Maverick or like plenty of other situations that we've seen where WWE releases somebody foolishly or maybe makes a mistake. They experience some backlash and they have to course correct. They've done this before. And for the fans to try to pretend that this is all part of the plan, I know none of you in the chat think that because you guys are not fucking stupid. But if you do think that, I'm here to tell you, you're fucking stupid. You're just stupid because that's not what happened. And I think fans are just way too worried about what they want to be true, and they think with their hearts and not with their heads, and they're deliberately obtuse and aggressively ignorant. And I mean aggressively, like it's their job, Like it's their job to be the dumbest dumb fuck in the whole fucking world. They get paid to do that. Because that's the way it seems. You know, because unless you're being paid to be the dumbest dumb fuck to ever fucking live, unless you're being paid to do that, I don't understand the what they get out of being this deliberately dumb. You know, it's just like I want to be aggressive with my stupidity. Like, how does that make you win arguments? You know, they present nothing. They have no facts. They have no evidence to back up anything. It's just repeat. You know, it's just rooted in pure jealousy. You know, they're big wrestling fans and nobody talks to them. Nobody cares about them. And they resent those who do. And that's sad. And it's just been fucking gross for the last couple of days with this nonsense. Anyway, here's what Fightful Selected learned about this situation over the past couple of days. We're told that there were many tears over Killing's departure, and he was flooded with phone calls and messages, and that Killing seemed shocked and kind of disgusted, as we all were. Specifically, one talent noted that Truth was cut in a very cold and impersonal way, with a talent relations employee informing him instead of the top brass. So he got called by Karen and, you know, Karen in the office, you know, on a Tuesday morning, instead of, you know, Triple H or Nick Khan or, you know, somebody else with some, you know, larger of a title there. Goes on to say that we're told that Killings actually ignored many of WWE's approaches during the week until Nick Khan took over and called Killings to work out a new deal. We're told that the deal was a meeting halfway situation. One talent that Killings worked for over a decade stated to Fightful, quote, Ronnie wouldn't do that. If he had to maintain a work like that, he'd just ask us not to say anything. He would never lie to us about that. I think Paul Levesque also knows that lying to or working the locker room is in horrible taste. And that right there, that goes back to what I was saying about common sense. It's common sense. That right there is common sense. Not work in your locker room. And if you were, you're going to work it for our truth? Why? Why are you even doing this? Made no damn sense at all for even that to happen. It just makes no sense. That's the biggest issue here I have with these. It's a work people. It makes no sense. You are aggressively defending something that makes no sense. In response to Triple H claiming that R-Truth's departure was part of the show, a number of talent reached out outright to claim the opposite. Truth's son Christopher also posted a cap message in response to the claims of it being part of the show. Cap means lies. That's what that slang is for. So even Ron Killing's son, I think this was on Instagram or maybe it was TikTok or whatever, but there was a clip or a photo of what Triple H said, and Ron Killing's son said, bullshit. Another veteran responded to the situation saying, I can tell Hunter doesn't like it. That's what I said. You could tell in that picture he doesn't like it. He doesn't like the fans hijacking creative before elaborating their disbelief of it being an elaborate plan in a very colorful manner. They spoke to a higher up today in WWE who confirmed their order of events as reported, including Nick Khan taking over negotiations. In fact, we were told that when R-Truth had initially been approached for a return, that he didn't seem to entertain the calls until Nick Khan took over, which is what they said earlier. When Ron Killings and WWE Brass have been asked directly by talent about the situation, they also stated it wasn't a work. People close to R-Truth, even his own family members, had spoke to numerous people indicating that the deal was put together very late in the week. And it goes on to say that he will be using the name Ron Killings. Regarding the shirt that WWE had ready to merchandise, they've had that for months, and Killings wore it on TV back in February. And some people in the chat during Money in the Bank were saying, they have merch up already. How do you explain that? I'm like, easy. If they knew he was coming back 3 days ago, you make a phone call to the graphics department, throw together something for R-Truth in the next 72 hours and put it up on WWE Shop so we have something for the fans who want to buy it right after they see him. That's just because WWE is a machine and they get shit done. But this was an already pre-existing design that they just threw up on the website. Takes no time at all. Very easy for them to do. It's not evidence of it being a work. So anyway, with all that stuff, with everything we learned, every single corner of the business, wrestlers, Ron Killings family, agents, people in the biz, podcasters, journalists, everything you are hearing is not a work, 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 not a work. There's only one specific, very specific, smelly, friendless contingent of wrestling fans that hate wrestling media that hate journalists and probably hate AEW too. They all kind of encompass the same, sewer. They are the ones that are insisting, and that's just weird to me. Right here in this country, every single other country, every single leader, every single citizen all around the world, everybody around the world knows that one specific person is incredibly dumb, but there's just one political party in one country that believes the opposite that the rest of the world believes. That's where we're at. It's flat earth. It's shit like that. It's completely psycho. It's completely crazy. And that's all we heard all week, no matter how much proof, evidence, and facts you have to back up something that's very easily to understand using basic common sense. You'd be amazed how people still are not convinced. But what does it matter? R-Truth is back. And now he's back as Ron Killings, and that means he's not going to be just showing up on camera anymore to be a goofball, to be a weirdo. He might actually be doing things. And he's had a lot of interactions with John Cena. Saturday night's main Backlash first, then Saturday night's main event, then at Money in the Bank. Maybe we are going to get another match here, or maybe Killings plays a big role in the CM Punk and John Cena match at Night of Champions. That could happen as well. Shit, we could get a Ron Killings and CM Punk feud. If Killings shows up to try to help Punk and he screws up and Cena wins, we got to start talking about that, by the way. How is John Cena going to retain at Night of Champions? It could have something to do with Ron Killings. We don't know. But one way or the other, I can't see CM Punk beating John Cena for the championship at Night of Champions. It's probably going to be Cody Rhodes. So start fantasy booking your finishes there. How does Cena survive CM Punk? It might be because of R-Truth. So happy that I got to get used to calling him Ron Killings. He is Ron Killings. He is back. I think it's great. He cut the braid off, and we might be getting a bald-headed Truth out on TV. Either way, it was great to see him back, and let's just hope the Triple H doesn't sabotage him with shitty creative because he's upset that he kind of looked dumb in this. But Triple H shouldn't worry about that. We don't really know how from what we understand, it was TKO that wanted to make a budget cut, and then it was up to Triple H to decide who was cut. And I've said that the timing was just terrible on that. So, it's a little bit of Triple H's fault and a little bit of TKO's fault, but I'm sure that, with Triple H, it's not like he made this call 100% on his own. It's not like in the middle of the night he said, you know what, I want to fire R-Truth. They needed to make some cuts, and those were the talents that he chose to cut. So, it's not like he just opted to do this. His hand was maybe a little bit forced by TKO, but he did play a role in the decision making. So I would hope that wouldn't make him resent R-Truth, and that's what I worry about the most when it comes to Triple H because of who we know him to be and who we've always known him to be. I can completely see him just resenting him, because he got back in the company. He got more money. I thought I was done with him. Now, not only does he come back, I kind of look a little foolish in the process, and I now have to use him, in a creatively valuable way. And I really think that's going to be a tough pill for Triple H to swallow. And he might, he might do some things here or there to subtly sabotage Truth a little bit. We'll have to see. After Truth cuts his big on top of the announce table, I'm cutting my hair promo, we go backstage to the Judgment Day, who is celebrating, sort of. Roxanne is there. She's very happy about her win. Dom is there too, but Liv is not. She winds up showing up, and she sees everybody happy. What are we celebrating, guys? Because she was in that match too with Roxanne that Roxanne won, and Roxanne even said, hey, tried to save you. I tried to save you from a pinfall. Don't get mad at me. But Liv was still a little bit upset that she is not going to Queen of the Ring. Then we get the men's four-way match. This is Penta versus Dominic Mysterio versus Sami Zayn versus Braun Breaker. So Breaker is in this match. So that made me think, I'm like, how is Breaker not just going to plow through the entire competition here, and get a championship match at SummerSlam? And this was before the main event happened, when I was thinking it was still possible for Rollins to cash in tonight. So I'm like, man, what if Rollins cashes in tonight and then you got Breaker winning the King of the Ring? That would be fucking nuts. But it turned out to be Sami Zayn getting the win here when LA Knight showed up and attacked Braun Breaker, taking him out of the match. I think he hit him with the blunt force trauma on the outside of the ring. And that allowed Sami to haluva kick Dominic in the ring and get the win. So LA Knight, who we've been talking about lately, needs to go to Monday Night Raw because there's nothing on SmackDown for him to really do. And I was really hoping, I predicted him to win Money in the Bank. I thought he should have. And then earlier on today, I did see it from Corey Hayes' Twitter. I don't know if he was the one that originally reported it or who, but it was reported earlier in the day that LA Knight is expected to feud with Seth Rollins. And, of course, Rollins stomped LA Knight at Money in the Bank that allowed him to go up and retrieve the briefcase. Now LA Knight coming out to get some revenge. And now that LA Knight and Rollins are going to feud, it sounds like they might just be moving LA Knight to Raw, which, again, adds more fuel to the belief that we're not going to get a draft. Drafts are dead. I don't think we'll ever get a WWE. Well, maybe we will, but we're not going to get a WWE draft anytime in the near future. And if they do want to move people around, then you've got Aldis and Pierce there as on-screen characters who can make these things happen without the production of a stupid draft. So with LA Knight, if he's going to attack Breaker, I'm wondering that if, maybe on SmackDown, Aldis is backstage, LA Knight approaches him. Hey, yeah. You saw what I did on Monday night to that piece of trash. I want to go move over to Monday night. And Aldis is like, okay, I'll talk to Pierce. Maybe we can get something worked out. And maybe they just do a trade because that's all you have to do. When you think about going through the whole production of the draft, most of the wrestlers land on the shows they were already on. So why don't you just eliminate all that and just move the pieces you want to move? And you can do that with GMs. So that's kind of how I would hope this would go down. Hopefully WWE doesn't feel like they have to create some stupid, there's a new transfer portal or any of that shit. LA Knight can just go to Aldis on SmackDown. Hey, I would like to go over to Raw permanently. Can you work something out? And then Aldis is like, I'll see what I can do. I'd hate to lose you, but I'll see what I can do. And then him and Pierce can have a conversation and maybe they just organize a trade. Who's over on Raw right now that's just kind of spinning their wheels and that could be moved over? Just any old talent. AJ or Sheamus, I feel like they've already made the move. There's got to be somebody. There's got to be somebody that can make the transition to SmackDown and make that kind of an even trade. So maybe they just do that, and then LA Knight is now on Raw, and he might be there to be a thorn in the side of Rollins, preventing him from cashing in. That could be fun too. LA Knight, I was really hoping he would win the briefcase, but if he's going to go the route of saying, hey, if I can't have the briefcase, you sure as shit aren't either, and he's going to just do whatever he can to stop Seth Rollins at every turn and prevent him from cashing in, that could help prolong Seth keeping the briefcase for a little longer, because with Seth in that briefcase, along with the backup he has, it feels like literally the very first opportunity he has at any champion laying on their back, he needs to cash in. And he would look stupid if he doesn't, especially with the backup that he's got. So maybe LA Knight being a part of this is a way to make Rollins holding on the briefcase a little bit longer make sense. It's the only way I can think about it, or the only thing I can think of. So LA Knight costs Breaker here. He's getting some revenge on Seth Rollins' crew, and Sami Zayn now advances to the semifinals. I feel like it's a given. He absolutely will make it to the finals, and I believe he will win the King of the Ring. I could see Sami coming out, winning the King of the Ring, and then cutting a promo in Arabic to the audience after the match. I feel like that's absolutely what they're going to do. And interestingly enough, right after this, we got two big announcements on next week. Number one is the return of Asuka. Asuka returns next week on Raw, and she's going to wrestle in a Queen of the Ring tournament match, Fatal 4-Way. It's going to be Asuka versus Ivy Nile. I'm sorry. Do I have this wrong? Who won the frickin'... Do I have something written down, or did I write down the winner of the women's 4-Way wrong? Let me just do a quick little check here. Am I dumb? Where the hell is it? Yeah, okay, no, I'm not right. I'm not wrong. Yeah, Roxanne won that earlier, but I have Roxanne listed in this four-way for next week. So help me out. It's Asuka versus Ivy Nile, Stephanie Vicaire, and someone else. I have Roxanne's name written down, but I think that's wrong. That's going to be a Queen of the Ring four-way match next week. For the men, they've announced Sheamus, Rusev, Bronson Reed, and one more opponent to be determined. So next week, and this, by the way, is on the opposite side of the bracket, I believe, from where Sami is. So who is that fourth person going to be? I think it's got to be Karrion Kross. We saw Kross and Sami interact tonight after Sami's win, and he vowed he's going to win a world championship, and he's going to do it. And Kross has been getting good ovations on main event and whatnot. I feel like it could be Kross next week, and they might be gearing up for a Sami Zayn and Karrion Kross final. Only problem I have with that is that that's going to have to be a loss for Kross. And I feel like if he's starting to gain some momentum here, and we don't know the situation with his contract, apparently it's coming up, hasn't been renewed as of yet, but I've been of the belief, it's looked like to me on TV that WWE is trying to like manufacture, support for him from the audience by kind of suppressing him a little bit, only having him show up on Raw in small backstage segments, and whenever he wrestles, they're doing it on main event every time. So the fans can start passing around the ovation he's getting on main event all over social media, get those hashtags going. It's really felt like this has all been being done on purpose. But with the news of his contract coming up, it's actually may be legit. They might be legitimately just kind of suppressing him because they don't know what they're going to do with his contract. But I feel like, he's gotten a lot of support from the audience now, and WWE should try to make one last effort to do something significant with him. And if he were to make it to the finals of the King of the Ring and lose to Sami, I don't know what that really does for him. So I almost feel like it's better that he doesn't. Unless he were to win the King of the Ring or something, but then it's, Kross and Gunther, holy shit, that actually would be a fun match, or a badass match, I guess. But it doesn't feel like Kross would win in that situation. It feels like Sami would. But maybe it's going to be Kross, and he's going to steamroll everybody, and he beats Sami Zayn, and he wins King of the Ring. Maybe that's what it is. I think it would be personally awesome if it was Obafemi. It won't be Obafemi, but imagine him in there with that meat. So yeah, next week, Sheamus, Rusev, Bronson Reed, and possibly Karrion Kross. Oh, Raquel Rodriguez. Thank you. Raquel Rodriguez. I put Roxanne Perez in there instead. Thank you. Thank you for that. I knew something was off. But that's exciting news. It's been over a year since Asuka wrestled, and she's been out all this time with an injury. Now, she's in that match next week with Stephanie Vicaire, as we'll talk about in a minute. Asuka coming back and immediately losing. I feel like Asuka's got to win in that situation. I'm hoping Asuka does win next week in her return match. Otherwise, I feel like she's got to. I feel like that's a guarantee. Because if Asuka wasn't going to win, then I wouldn't put her in that match. I would have a return match, just put her in a one-on-one match on the show. So Asuka being in that, I feel like is a spoiler that she's winning. Then we got the return of Nikki Bella. WWE was advertising the return of Nikki Bella. So I'm like, okay, does this mean she has re-signed like we all thought and heard that she was? And she was going to be back a little bit, and it sounds like she is back. She makes her way to the ring, and she announces or she basically just talks about Evolution. Evolution's already been announced, but she talked about Evolution, and she talks about how proud she is of all of the current women's wrestlers like Rhea Ripley and Io Sky. She mentioned a few women, and then she talked about the new crop from NXT like Julia and Stephanie Vicaire. Stephanie Vicaire, she's awesome. She's really good. I don't know if you guys have seen her. And yes, the spelling of that is Vackaway, Vicaire. That was kind of funny. I'm not giving Nikki shit. It took me like 2 podcasts to know how I was going to say Stephanie Vicaire's name. So I wasn't really sure at first either, but I'll damn well guarantee you that if I was cutting a promo in the middle of a WWE ring, I'd sure as shit know how to pronounce that properly. So Stephanie Vicaire, apparently Nikki Bella's a big fan of yours. And then, immediately, Liv Morgan's music hits, and out comes Liv. She is steamrolling, just power walking to the ring, pissed off How dare you not say my name? As Nikki was rolling off some names, she didn't say Liv's name. And Nikki's like, I didn't mean to, girl. And Liv is just like livid, no pun intended. And she is screaming and yelling all up in Nikki's face. And I'm like, okay, well, this is obviously going to be our match, probably for Evolution. And Liv just chews out Nikki Bella. And then Nikki is starting to leave, and then Liv says, you'll never be anything more than a reality show diva. And then Nikki kind of goes back in the ring to get her some, and then she gets hit with the Oblivion. So Liv just came out basically and kicked Nikki Bella's ass. So this felt like a little bit out of the blue, but the way it feels like to me is they need a match for Nikki Bella at Evolution. So they're probably like, what match could we give Nikki at Evolution that wouldn't be a title match? Who could she work with? You know, and obviously you could put her with Jade Cargill or something like that. But Liv Morgan, I think, is a perfect choice because she's someone who, even without a title and a world championship right now, she's one of, if not the most, you know, along with Ripley, probably most over women on the roster right now. So that would be a good match to do. And I'm happy. I mean, now granted, Liv has one half of the tag team titles. Oh, shit. They're not doing that, are they? Oh, no. They're not doing that, are they? Guys, please tell me it's not going to be Brie mode. Please. I can't. Is it going to be Brie mode? Do I have to hear it? Fuck. Here I thought they were just setting up a harmless little Nikki Bella and Liv Morgan match. And I kind of done forgot what belt Liv Morgan currently has around her waist. And she's got a big-ass friend who's got another belt that looks the same around her waist. And sometimes those belts are defended in team events called tag team matches. Fuck. Oh, the Bellas are going to win the tag team titles. Okay, that's it for me. Good night, guys. I'll see you later. I'm out of here. Just kidding. Just kidding. But man, it's so funny how things will just occur to you in real time. Please tell me Brie Mode is pregnant or something. Did D-Bry knock her up? Please tell me she can't wrestle or something would hinder her from coming back and being in a tag match. Oh no. It was at that moment that he knew. It just kind of hit me all of a sudden. I'm like, oh, all at once. I wasn't putting that together until now. It's not going to be the Bellas against Liv and Raquel at Evolution, is it? I'd rather it just be Nikki versus Liv Morgan, but I kind of wasn't adding all them numbers together until just now. Son of a bitch. Okay. Primo. No. Stop, Greg. Stop it. And I'm not going to make fun of the girl in the audience that was crying when Nikki Bella came out to the ring. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to laugh at you. Although I am. I'm going to secretly laugh at you. But I'll be nice. Be nice, Greg. Some people have different idols than you. Just because they're crying when Nikki Bella comes out doesn't mean they have a shitty idol. Doesn't mean that at all. Just means they have different idols than you. So don't be a dick, Greg. I had to tell myself that a couple times tonight. So anyway, Nikki got oblivioned, and maybe she'll get some backup. Yeah, that sucks. But hey, at the very least, we're getting Liv and Nikki one-on-one. But yeah, it's probably going to be a tag team match. Unless, Brie, would she go back to WWE when her husband has got like basically an office job with AEW? That would be kind of weird, but I don't think it would stop them either. We will see. Hopefully I'm wrong about that revelation I just had. I really hope I'm wrong. That leaves us with the main event. Jey Uso defending his World Heavyweight Championship against Gunther. This match was set up several weeks ago. We knew we were going to get this match on this night. And I was never even entertaining the thought that Gunther would win. I don't know why. He's a badass. He's a beast. He went undefeated for 9.5 years. So why would he not win this match? But it was right after WrestleMania, and statisticians and people with with all the wrestling knowledge ricocheting around inside your skulls. When have we seen somebody win the championship at WrestleMania and then lose the title back to that same person just a couple of months later? It's definitely never happened in the first probably 20 WrestleManias, right? That I can think of. So that's kind of weird. So it wasn't feeling like we were going to get a title change tonight. Plus, we've all heard, the rumors and the reports over the past several weeks about Goldberg's upcoming retirement match. We know it's going to happen because he's been training for it. So we know it's happening. There's a big chunk of shows in July in Atlanta. Stands to reason that's probably where it's going to be. Saturday night's main event. The same night as All In. That'll be Goldberg's retirement match. And with that knowledge, most of us were expecting Goldberg and Gunther to be picked back up. They've already laid the groundwork. They planted the seed. The plant is starting to sprout. Now it's time to water that plant. And I thought the simple way to do it is just to have Goldberg be involved in the finish of this match somehow. But we have not seen any mention of Goldberg on TV. Gunther hasn't made any mention of him in any promos, I don't believe, at least in recent weeks. And so when this match started, I started thinking to myself, I'm like, if he did come out, that would be weird as hell. It would actually come off as quite creatively lazy. If his music started playing in the middle of the match and it distracted Gunther, allowing Jey to get the win, that's the way a lot of fans kind of had it in their head. But I'm like, that's lazy. Because what's Goldberg's motivation for coming out now at this point? Why now? He's just coming out to come out. I would try to have something leading to it or building to it or drop a tease or a hint or something like that. And it just felt like if Goldberg would have came out, it would have been out of place. So I was starting to kind of discount Goldberg halfway through the match. I'm like, I don't think we're going to see him. He's not sitting in the front row, nothing like that. No little teases there that he's going to be involved in this at all. So, I was wondering if we would get some other interference. Maybe some Bloodline guys would come out. Maybe Punk or Sami would come back out there. But no, it was pretty much a clean match and a clean win. And eventually Gunther had locked Jey in the sleeper, and he's got him there in the middle of the ring. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, how is Jey going to get out of this? He's got nobody at ringside. There's nobody there to distract Gunther. There's nothing else going on. And he's just locked Jey in that choke. And then Jey starts getting out of it. I'm like, oh, they're just going to have Jey get out of it? That's like, I don't even know how he can. He's been in it for so long. Jey gets out of it, and then Gunther locks it back in. I think throws a few elbows at him, and bam, cinches it right back up. And I think Jey fights out of it again, even almost rolls him up for a near fall. And then Gunther just tenacious, puts it right back on him. And finally, this time, I can see it. I'm like, Jey's eyes are closing. He's in the middle of the ring. There's nobody anywhere to be seen. Because a lot of times if there's a run-in, the crowd will start reacting. And so when you saw a real tight shot on the sleeper. And when you see the tight shot, I'm listening for the crowd. If the crowd starts going nuts, somebody's running down there. And the crowd wasn't saying anything. And I'm like, this is going to be over. And I think I'm tweeting. I'm like, he's not going to get out. How's he going to escape this? And he didn't escape. Referee rings the bell, and we have a brand new World Heavyweight Champion, Gunther. World Champion again. I like Gunther as World Champion. I like him better than Jey Uso as World Champion. I'm glad that Jey Uso got a run. I'm sorry that it ended for him this way, but I mean, hey, at least it ended in a clean victory in a championship match in a main event of a show. Not some cheesy catch-in way or something like that. So now Gunther is the champion. And now you've got Gunther, you got Cena, you've got two heel champions and a heel briefcase holder. That's weird. Oh man, what if, no, they better not. I'd be so pissed. What if Goldberg wins the title on Saturday night's main event and then Rollins cashes in on him? They might do that. I'd be so pissed, though, if Goldberg won the championship and beat Gunther. No, I'd quit. And then the day after, we're going to see the Bellas win the tag team titles. Guys, I'll have to be institutionalized if that happens. I'm going to be streaming from a padded room. Because if Goldberg wins the title on Saturday and then the Bellas win the tag team titles on Sunday, no, that's not going to be good for me. It's going to be real bad for me. So that can't happen. But it is interesting that we have two heel champions and a heel briefcase holder and how that is all going to shake out. And when Rollins cashes in on someone, will it be a babyface champion? Will Gunther or Cena have dropped the belts by then? And I'm telling you, my initial thought when Rollins won is that he should cash it in on Cody. I think that is a legitimate possibility. I could see Seth, I could see WrestleMania 31 all over again. I could see Seth Rollins facing LA Knight at SummerSlam and losing to him. Then, after Cody beats Cena for the title, Rollins cashes in on Cena. Cashes in on Cody or cashes in on Sami. If Sami wins the King of the Ring, faces Gunther, it's going to have to be one of those two situations at SummerSlam. I feel like now that we say this and talk about it out loud, that's almost guaranteed. I feel like the fact that you have two heel champions right now with a heel briefcase winner really lends evidence that there's going to be a cash-in immediately after a victory. When the babyface beats one of these heels, Seth is there. And the Sami thing could be the way it goes. Sami wins King of the Ring, faces Gunther at SummerSlam, beats Gunther for the title, and then Sami comes in and cashes in after losing to LA Knight on maybe night one of SummerSlam, because there's 2 night SummerSlams now, but I do it in the same night. Have Rollins lose on night 2 of SummerSlam, maybe like in the opener, to LA Knight. Have LA Knight beat him clean. Completely fucking squeaky goddamn clean right there in the middle with the BFT. Then Rollins, just like Orton did with the sick-ass RKO, you could recreate that spot even. Have Rollins go for the stomp, and then LA Knight throws him up in the air, boom, BFT, just like the RKO. And then Rollins will later show up, cash in on Sami Zayn, and now, boom, you got your championship match right away, or your championship feud. Rollins and Knight, now Knight can get a championship match, although Sami Zayn might have something to say about it too. So maybe that's what you do. Because if you have Knight beat Rollins and then Rollins wins the title, now you can have Rollins defend the title against Knight and retain. Yeah. That's probably what they're going to do. All right. So that's kind of the end of the results there, but I will go to the chat here, answer super chats, see what you guys are saying about all this. If anybody has not smashed the thumbs up button yet, if you could please do that for me, I would very much appreciate it. I'm going to kind of scroll back to the beginning here. There we go. Just don't want to miss any. The chat is a little bit... There we go. I'm going to go to this one. I'm going to go to the master chat. There we go. Now I can see better. All right, who was next? Ryan, I think I got that one from you about Sami beating Gunther at SummerSlam. Yep. And the next one up is 10 more from Mike Witt. Appreciate it, bro. Hey, Greg and chat. I have had 2 days to process Money in the Bank. In my opinion, Money in the Bank was originally used to build a new talent to a world title. Seth didn't need it, and neither did Drew. Yeah, the last couple of Money in the Bank winners have been underwhelming, but I've said the same thing about Royal Rumbles. I've kind of said this before. I agree that I probably overall as a fan like it better when the briefcase goes to someone that hasn't been world champion before to help make someone. And LA Knight, to me, would have been a perfect example of that type of wrestler. But I am not of the belief that it has to be that every year. And people have the same feeling about the Royal Rumble. The Royal Rumble needs to go to somebody who needs it, or whatever. No. You can sometimes have a 2-time Royal Rumble winner win it for a 3rd time. There is nothing at all wrong with that if the storyline dictates that, or if it is going to make entertaining TV. I don't really care about those rules. I don't care about, this type of wrestler should win these type of matches. I don't give a shit about that. All I wanted to do is make some sort of sense. And like I've been saying with Rollins, why I'm disappointed in that is because I don't think he needs that briefcase to win the championship. Unless there's some sort of bigger story at play that makes sense once he cashes it in. And then you're saying, oh, okay, that's why they had him win it. Because the way it looks right now, it seems unnecessary. But I feel like Drew last year and Seth this year, both of them were guys that shouldn't necessarily need a briefcase to be a champion. And I understand that, and I agree with it. But I also feel like sometimes former world champions should be winning these matches too. It shouldn't always go to people like LA Knight or whatnot. So I agree and disagree. But... in this particular case, I'm in agreement that I didn't really like the Rollins win. But I'm going to see how the cash-in happens. You know, it depends on how the cash-in happens. Now, when Rollins cashes in and once he becomes champion, if we think to ourselves, if we reverse book that and say, it would have been so easy for him to win this title without the briefcase, that I'm going to maintain my belief that he shouldn't have won it. But if they get the title on Rollins in such a way to where the briefcase was the only way to really make it happen, then I'll say, okay, then it makes more sense. You know what I mean? Just got to wait and see. But right now, not a fan. Thanks for 5 more, Mike. Greg, wrestling is a home for conspiracy theories. After all, these are people who still believe the screw job was a work. Yep, that is true. The screw job's a little bit different, though. They're not trying to be purposely asshole-ish. You know, the people with the R-Truth is a work thing, they're assholes, and that's their identity. You know what I mean? I feel like some of the screw job was a work people might legitimately believe that for various reasons, but it's a whole different ball of wax with what's going on with R-Truth. It's just trolls. There's purposely trolling. As Tito lays down and moves my camera a little bit. Hey, buddy. He's not visible on camera, but if he walks over here, I'll show him to you. 5 more from Mike with him winning clean tonight and him putting over McAfee after their match last month. Are we getting a slow burn Gunther face turn? Yeah, I mentioned that earlier, that it feels like that's going to be the end game here, especially, you know, if something happens like Rollins cashes in on him. You know, if he beats Goldberg and then Rollins comes and cashes in after that, that could get Gunther to a face. But now that Rollins has the briefcase and we have the 2 heel champions, I feel like the earliest we're going to get a Rollins cash in is going to be SummerSlam. So yeah, Rollins cashing in could be used as a way to turn Gunther face, but I feel like Gunther is on his way there already anyway. A lot of because of what you said, especially the deal with McAfee and whatnot. Max, Pokey Bruh, appreciate the 2. What if Seth cashes in during a title match? He could do that. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be after. It's going to have to be in a situation where he feels like he can capitalize the best. And that's what he did at WrestleMania 31. He made it a triple threat. So he could easily do that. And if he does do that, think about that implication. That's one thing we should think about. Max brings up a good point here. If you are Seth Rollins sitting in the situation that he's in with the backup that he has, cashing in on a winner of a match would make no sense, because if you do that, it's a standard match with standard rules, correct? But if you show up during a match and make it a triple threat, it's no disqualification, which means Breakker and Reed can do whatever they want. Yeah, I feel like that would make the most logical sense from a storyline perspective. If Seth is going to cash in at SummerSlam, he doesn't need to cash in on the winner. He needs to make it a triple threat so his backup can help him win. That's what you do. That's the whole point of having them. Good point. Good point, Max. Thank you, Juliet, who is hooking up Robert Jimenez with a channel membership. Thank you for always making it rain in here, Juliet. She also has $2 for us. Rest in peace, Sly Stone of Sly and the Family Stone. You don't mean Sylvester? I don't even know what that means, Juliet. I don't know who Sly Stone is other than Sylvester Stallone. Oh, okay, musician, songwriter. I don't know why I didn't know who this was. Oh, rest in peace, buddy. Oh. Yeah. Never mind. Oh, that's super sad. Oh, that's super sad. 82. Okay. Yeah, I know who that is. I was like, Sylvester Stallone died? What the hell? All right. And thank you, Ryan. Thank you. Don't forget about Roman. Yeah, don't forget about Roman. Yeah, what's Roman going to do at SummerSlam? He's going to be there. He's going to have to do something. Who's he going to work with? You already got one champion tied up with the King of the Ring. Let's hypothetically assume it's Sami, right? Because if it's not Sami, who would it be on the SmackDown side? I haven't even seen the brackets. I don't know if they've released him. But let's say it's Sami. Okay, so Sami's going to face the World Heavyweight Champion. So that's one title eliminated. what does Roman Reigns do? Not another tag, right? Is it Roman and Cody versus Cena and Travis Scott? I don't know. I kind of forgot about Roman. He's going to have to do something at SummerSlam as well. Mike Witt, appreciate the 2. Imagine a... Yeah, and actually that makes sense too because with LA Knight attacking Breakker here, I don't think they're going to be able to wait until SummerSlam to do the match. It's probably going to be at Night of Champions. Yeah, anyway, we'll see. Mike's got 2 more. Imagine Dragunov returning at King of the Ring. That would be cool. Maybe he would show up... But I don't think Gunther's going to have a match at King of the Ring. I don't know what he would do. If he just showed up there like in a run-in situation, or, he'd have to return on TV to be in the King of the Ring. I don't even know how you would make his return there. Yeah, we got Randy Orton to think about too. We need to find places for Randy Orton, for Roman Reigns, and where exactly they're going to fit in to SummerSlam now that you have the King of the Ring and whatnot. Yeah, well, LA Knight might never be world champ. I mean, that's one bad thing about it, is that not everybody can have a piece of the pie at the same time. And there's already 2 world championships in the company, which is good. But, there's a lot of people that just aren't going to quite make it. And I felt like this might have been it for him because they put him in the match. And I'm like, are they going to keep messing with the fans like that? Are they going to keep putting him in the match for him to lose? If he's not going to win the Money in the Bank, I wouldn't have him in the Money in the Bank. So the fact that he was in it made me think he had a legitimate chance. And that's why I predicted him. And I was disappointed that he didn't win. But we'll see. Maybe I'll change my tune on that. Right now, from where I sit right now, it feels disappointing because, like I said, I feel like he could have benefited from the briefcase, whereas Seth could have found his way to getting that world title without it. But makes a little bit more sense when you think about the backup that he's surrounded himself with. And if you crash a championship match and turn it into a triple threat, there are no rules. And your backup can come out there and win the match for you, essentially. And so maybe that's what they're setting up. Will Nakamura be world champion? No, he will not. Oh, that's okay. Cody is in the SmackDown bracket. Hey, if anybody has that, and if you want to just tag me in it over on social media, I'll take a quick look. I don't have the brackets near me at the moment. But yeah, I'd like to see what they have set for those other ones. But yeah, I feel like, a fucking Cody and Sami final would be crazy. It just depends on, who's getting the title shots, because you can say, or you can get, it's kind of like the Rumble, if Cody doesn't win the King of the Ring, I still think he would be able to get a title shot against John Cena at SummerSlam. They would be able to do that because of, what happened at WrestleMania and based on how John Cena won that title. Cody shouldn't need the King of the Ring to get a title shot. So I would think it would be better if it was Sami Zayn winning and then you just give Cody the shot at SummerSlam anyway. But if Cody wins the King of the Ring, which he might because he won the big green belt over there, right? So Cody could win that. Then he gets to challenge John Cena. But again, based on how Cody held the title for a year and in the way in which he dropped it at WrestleMania, why would he need the King of the Ring to get a title shot? Most people in his situation would get a title shot without the need for that. So it's one of those things where does Cody need to win it? I feel like he'd be winning it just to win it. You could have Sami Zayn win it, earning him a title shot, and then in storyline, you can just book Cody versus Cena. But if you flip it and Cody wins King of the Ring, then he challenges Cena, then you got to figure out a way for somebody to challenge Gunther at SummerSlam and who that person will be and how you determine that. And I think Rollins, with the briefcase, that means he's not going to be in a championship match at WrestleMania. At SummerSlam. He's not going to be a championship match at SummerSlam because he's got the briefcase already. So he's going to be in another match. And that's why I said it might be kind of cool if he was in there against LA Knight and lost and then cashed in later. Pulled a Pulled a WrestleMania 31. Oh, thank you for that, Ryan. Appreciate that. Let me take a look here. Okay. So we got Zayn advancing. On the SmackDown side, on the same bracket, it's Randy Orton, LA Knight, Aleister Black, and Carmelo Hayes. That's going to be your four-way on the same side as Sami Zayn. Then over on the right-hand side, it's Cody Rhodes, Damian Priest, Andrade, and Nakamura. Wow, that's going to be your fatal four-way over there. I feel like Cody's got to advance in that one. And then, of course, on the Raw side, we've got Sheamus, Rusev, Reed, and that mystery person. So I feel like the final four, based on the, actually, I'll put this on the screen for you guys here. Sorry about that. I should have done that all along for you. And we'll take a look here, and I'll try to predict who I think my final. Let me just, instead of using the actual file, I'm going to screenshot it. There we go. And let's take a look at what we got here. All right. Here's what we got for, that's a little blurry. Sorry about that. Where can I put it? Right over my head. There we go. So when you're trying to predict the final four here for Night of Champions, or for the tournament, I got to go Sami Zayn, obviously. And then in this Knight, Orton, Black, and Hayes match, man, that's tough. LA Knight, again, is he going to... Okay, so LA Knight, here's one thing I can say about LA Knight. I feel like Rollins or Breaker or somebody will cost LA Knight on SmackDown. So we can eliminate LA Knight in that one. Black, Hayes, and Orton. Got to go with Randy Orton, I guess. I'm going to go Randy Orton to advance in that one. So it's going to be Zayn and Orton on the left. And then over on the right, I'm going to go Cody. And I got to go the mystery guy. I feel like it's got to be the mystery guy. Now, who would the mystery guy be? Some people are saying Karrion Kross, but that would be a weird match. Cody versus Karrion Kross. It could be somebody like Ricky Saints, I suppose, but when you look at the beef that's in that match already, I feel like whoever it is needs to be a beefy person. So Obafemi would be awesome, but it might be Karrion Kross. If not, I don't know who it would be. So I'm going to go Zayn, Orton, Cody, and the mystery dude as the final four. And for the finals, I say it's either Randy Orton versus Cody or Sami Zayn versus the mystery dude. Yeah. I think it's Cody versus Orton. They've been wanting to get that match done. And so that would be a good way to do it at King of the Ring. Yeah. Cody and Orton will be the final, or maybe Zayn and Kross. Something like that. What do you guys think? No. Hendry, I'm over Hendry. I don't believe in him. I don't really think he's that good. And he wouldn't fit in that match. If they brought him out, he better lose that. He wouldn't win that anyway, so he'd just come out just to lose again. No, I'm going to say no on Hendry. Ryan, thanks for the 2. You've got Roman Punk and Seth. Roman Punk versus Seth and Braun at SummerSlam. You could do that. Thanks for the 2, Mike. I still say Roman is costing Seth when he cashes. Yeah, so maybe Roman is there to cost him. That could be as well. 5 more from Mike earlier. Safe to say the honeymoon is over with Triple H. After all, he did learn about booking from his scumbag father-in-law. Oh, yeah. Here's the thing about Triple H. I think he can be a shithead sometimes in the scrum. It's just, the problem with what he said is that it insults our intelligence. And how, as a fan, how appreciative I would have been if he would have just said, "We heard you," but he had to be the way he was. But even Triple H, the way he is, all the things about him that drive me nuts, the fact that he does not like us, he does not like the fans, he hates us, always has, always fucking has, and we've got mountains of evidence that show this. Even with all those problems, he is a million times better than Vince McMahon. I would still rather have asshole Triple H than hair defecating Vince McMahon. There's a lot about Triple H that I don't like, but at the end of the day, he does have a job to do, and he is no longer under just the employment of his father-in-law. He has to do his job that sees results. If it does not, he's out of a job. So for once, he can't, like back in the Authority days, I swear to God, they enjoyed putting on crappy content. They liked making us mad because they were the only game in town, and they knew that no matter what they did, the fans would come back every week. That wasn't entirely true, as we saw the ratings really hit the shitter there for quite many years in WWE. But overall, the company was still pumping out a lot of business because they are a global brand. And I think that knowledge and that untouchable feeling that they had made Triple H perversely happy about doing things on TV that the fans would consider disappointing. And he doesn't really have that power anymore. If he does, then he's just going to be sabotaging himself. Because if WWE starts shitting the bed, if their ratings tank, if the storylines are uninspiring and boring and lazy, and the fans are being vocal about this, and the ratings are going down, attendance is going down, all you're hearing on social media is what a shitty booker Triple H is, they will make a change. So Triple H cannot give us crap content just to fuck with us anymore. He no longer has that power. So I feel like we're probably in about the best position we can be in, where I have no doubt in my mind that Triple H resents us. I know that for a fact. But also, he can't really do anything about it. The only thing he can do are small things. Like, I feel like he could really sabotage R-Truth if he wanted to. This new run by Ron Killings, he's going to use them and everything, but he's going to just put forth minimal effort there. Just get this guy through his contract and get him out of here. It's kind of like how he's going to do it. He's going to hope that Killings' run is a flop. That inside, he's not going to say these things publicly, obviously, but I feel like he's going to want that inside of him. So, maybe creatively he can do a couple of things here or there that he knows is a good way to stick it to us, but overall he can't purposely put out garbage, because if he does, his job will be in jeopardy. So he's got no choice but to try to please us. He's got no choice but try to deliver good quality creative. And the minute he stops doing that, there could be a change. So it's not, the wrestling is different. And I am curious. Triple H isn't going to be around forever either. This is a guy with a heart condition. How many years does he really want to put into this? Does he want to be the next Vince McMahon? Does he want to sit there in that chair until he's 81 years old? Or, does he say, hey, man, when I get to be 65, I have $1 billion in the bank. What the fuck am I doing? Is he going to want to get out? Or, is he going to suffer from burnout? Or is the job just going to become too much as he gets older? There will be a time where Triple H creatively will not be in charge. Who is the successor? It can't be Shawn. He's the same age. Who gets the baton after this? Who gets put in that corporate spot? And how much, how much say does Triple H have in a successor? How much say do the wrestlers have? What if it turns into WCW, where they put people with no wrestling knowledge whatsoever? What if we get a modern WWE version of Jim Herd one day running WWE? We are fucked. So all you fans out there with a sharp, jagged, twisted, crazy straw-looking tree branch up your ass about Tony Khan, at least he's a wrestling fan. At least he knows about wrestling. At least he experienced wrestling as a fan and loves it. I'd rather have that guy in charge than some corporate dickbag that TKO just throws in there, the same way WCW did and Time Warner did to WCW occasionally with certain people throughout the years when they became the company that they became. So I feel like fans, you don't appreciate what you have till it's gone. And I might have my problems and my issues with Triple H, but what I do like about Triple H is at least he knows wrestling. He's been around the business his whole life. He's a wrestling historian who appreciates the history of the business, who knows a little bit about it. And even on Triple H's worst, most shitty day, even when he's the biggest raging asshole he can be, he is still 1,000,000 times better than Vince McMahon. So because of how horrible Vince is, I think Triple H is going to get a lifetime pass with me. Because Vince McMahon was so awful, so disgustingly, horribly awful, especially at the end, not to mention this lawsuit, not to mention his personal life, not to mention what just a shitty person he is. Triple H is better. Triple H will give us better than Vince McMahon gave us. But Triple H does have flaws in his booking too, and he certainly is not perfect, and if they start going downhill, a steep downhill, and the snowball starts rolling, then they could be in some trouble. But I'm hoping that doesn't happen. I was really enjoying when AEW and WWE were both hitting on all cylinders. That made it fun. Made it fun to be a wrestling fan. That's what you want. You don't want one company sucking. You don't want either company sucking. As I pet Tito right now. He's laying right here, taking a nap. So, Triple H honeymoon may be over, but I'm still happier with him in WWE than I definitely would have been with Vince. And I feel like one day whoever succeeds him would be worse. And Bruce Pritchard wouldn't be a good choice either. He's another one who's pretty old. He's been around this business a long time. I feel like you need a fresh, vibrant mind, not a burned out, dulled out mind that's been around it for so long that you're almost detached. Plus, Bruce isn't in really great health. He's a big fella, So you need somebody that can be there and take the reins for a couple of decades if need be. And that might be a current wrestler on the roster. That's what I would hope for, actually, is somebody just graduating into that. Last person in the world I want is just some corporate asshole up in the office somewhere. Why don't you just do it? That's what we don't want. So let's hope that never happens. Mike, thanks for the 2. Dragunov as the mystery person in the tournament. Yeah, there you go. Dragunov in there with all those dudes, and then he wins? Maybe. I have no idea what they're going to do. I don't even know the latest with Dragunov's injury and his recovery time or any of that stuff, so I have no idea what's even going on with him. But if it turns out to be him, I'd be happy. I'd be cool with that. Yeah, Punk being the guy, I could see Punk wanting to do that too. But man, could we trust Punk in that situation? God forbid he starts having an issue with the talent that he's writing storylines for. We're going to have another Benoit and Kevin Sullivan situation. Punk, I guess in that role, I worry that, he would pull things like he did with Jack Perry. All of a sudden, we don't do that here in the real glass. I think he could be somewhat overbearing a little bit. Maybe even slightly condescending in that role. I'm not sure. I'd like to know wrestlers' take on that. Any wrestlers who have worked with Punk or knew him personally in any way, would you recommend or do you think he would be a good booker? No. Rodrigo, nobody like Cornette or Bischoff or none of those people are ever going to be around WWE. Outside of a Hall of Fame induction. But no, I'm not talking about old people. We're talking about people who can see the business into the future. There's going to have to be somebody who takes over for Triple H that hopefully isn't old. Like I said, that has lots of gas in the tank, that hasn't been burned out and mind-fucked by the business to where they don't really care. It's got to be somebody who cares, who has passion, who wants the business to excel and improve and grow and evolve and that type of stuff. That's who you need. You can't just say, let's just have it be this person. No, it's got to be somebody that, probably isn't even on our radar right now, but I definitely think it has to be somebody who has wrestling ability and knowledge. Cody Rhodes, maybe one day. One of Shawn's kids, I don't know any of Shawn's kids. I don't know them. Maybe Randy Orton. I don't know if Randy would want to. Dixie Carter. Shane, again, been around too long. Done with Shane. Moving on. Next chapter. Business has to evolve, not stay connected to the McMahons. It's time to cut the cord with the McMahons altogether. No Stephanie, no Shane, no Triple H. They're all gone. We're going to reach an era in WWE where there will not be a McMahon influence, unless it's a grandkid or something like that. I don't think it'll be John Cena. If I'm John Cena, I would rather live the life I'm living than be head fucking booker in WWE, believe me. Yeah, but no, definitely not me. I'm not young and vibrant either. I'd probably get annoyed on the first day. I'm like, oh my God, I cannot do this. Jonathan Coachman, no. No, I don't like Coachman. I don't know. I don't know who it could be. But one day there will be a successor. One day there will be another Triple H. And that's going to be an interesting day. Like, if you had to guess, how many years from right now does Triple H have left in that role? I got to go 10, max. I'm not sure if he's making it 20. I think 10 and he's done. I think 10 might be overshooting it. Might be 8. I think he's going to definitely surpass 2 or 3 years. It's not going to be that quick. Maybe in 5. But I even think in 5 he'll still be around. But during 5 years from now, in the next 5 years, I think WWE is going to see a decline in their numbers. And apparently with TKO being in a fuck ton of debt, they are not going to like to see those results. And if WWE's numbers do decline, that means they're going to be saving money other places. And that might affect the quality of the shows and things like that. And, some of the talent they employ and how much money some of these talents are making. That's good news for Tony Khan from a financial perspective. He can outbid anything. Tony Khan holds all the cards there. All he's got to do is find the wrestler, that would take the biggest deal. Some wrestlers prefer to be in one company. Some wrestlers have the dream of being in WWE. And some wrestlers want whatever motherfucker will pay me the most. And Tony Khan can be that guy. Scott D'Amore? Perhaps. Conrad Thompson, no. Michael Cole, no. I think Michael Cole might retire too. I mean, once he's done wrapping up his duties in WWE, I think he'll be done. I don't think it'll be anybody that's already been around for 25 years as of right now. It's not going to be any of those people. It's going to be somebody else. And it won't be Greg Morgan. Maybe it'll be one of you. Who knows? All right, guys. I think that's going to be it for tonight. I want to thank you very much for being here. You will see me this week. You'll see me this weekend for the podcast. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're going to be able to do a watch-along on Sunday because it is Father's Day, and I am needed at my restaurant where we serve food to fathers on that day. So, unfortunately, I think I'm going to be busy, but we'll make it up some other way. You might even see me earlier on in the week this week, so keep a lookout for shorts and whatnot. And if we have any late breaking news, I will come up here and talk about that as well. So thanks again for everything tonight. Appreciate it. Do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button on the way out the door, and I will be catching you guys in just a couple of days. Peace.